They are a symbol of the modern world. They are largely associated with the taming of the Wild West in the USA. They triggered the transformation of Siberia. They are the reason why the Far East isn't so far anymore. They are the product of the Industrial Revolution, the symbol of technological progress from which a number of world-renowned geniuses have drawn their inspiration. Railways. Thanks to the Iron Horse, people were finally able to cross the American continent in 7 days rather than in 6 months. It was as if distances had suddenly become dramatically shorter. The first film in history was Arrival of a Train at La Ciotat by the Lumiere brothers. Trains and stations were depicted in the works of Van Gogh, Monet and Manet. The railway, as a symbol of modernity, was a source of inspiration for writers like Victor Hugo and Balzac, and not without reason. The railway dramatically changed the way people lived. It created opportunities which had never existed before. Горна Оряховица is a town in North Bulgaria, nestling between the second longest river in Europe, the Danube, and one of the largest mountain ranges on the continent, Stara Planina, also known as the Balkan Mountains. The Balkan Peninsula is named after these mountains. Gorna Oryahovica is located along one of the rivers flowing into the Danube, the river Yantra, which originates from the Balkan Mountains. On leaving the last of the mountain slopes, the river flows into the Danubian plain. To the south of Gorna Oryahovica, you can find the so-called Turnovo Heights, standing tall and proud. These are a natural U-shaped rock formation open to the east. The river Yantra cuts through these heights, forming a scenic gorge which the locals call Dervent. The highest point above Gorna Oryahovica is the Kamaka Plateau, meaning the Rock Plateau, which offers a splendid view over the entire town. The first signs of human activity around these lands date from as far back as 8,000 years ago, long before the emergence of great civilizations of antiquity, such as the Sumerians, Babylonians and Egyptians.
Районът на град Горна Оряховица е място обитавано от дълбока древност. Най-ранните поселения това са неолитните земеделци и скотовъдци, които изграждат своите две селища в местността Блатото, или това е районът на днешното училище гимназията.
In the middle of the last century, in the 1950s, archaeologists discovered a prehistoric settlement close to the nearby village of Hotnica. During the excavations, they unearthed 7,000-year-old golden jewelry. These are unprecedented findings. It was the first time ancient gold was discovered in a domestic setting and not in a necropolis. The findings proved that the precious metal had more than a purely ritualistic significance for prehistoric man.
В периода 6-1 век преди Христа, в местността Пчелното място, разположена между Камъка и Арбанашкото бърдо, южно от крепостта Ряховец, се намира селище, свързано с тракийското племе Крубези. Археологически проучвания не са извършени. В исторически музей Горна Оряховица се съхраняват случайни открития, като монети, свързани с завоевателните походи на Александър II и Филип Аридей.
This settlement existed from the 5th century BC until the 1st century AD, when the Romans invaded.
През 3 век от новата ера започва изграждането на фортификационните съоръжения на крепостта Ряховец. Те се свързват с управлението на император Аврелиан, като се провеждат археологически разкопки през 80-те и 90-те години. В исторически музей Горна Оряховица се съхраняват редица монети, свързани именно с император Аврелиан и неговите наследници.
After the fall of the Roman Empire and its division into the Eastern and Western Roman empires, and after the Slavs settled on this land in the 6th century, the fortress was abandoned.
В периода 12-14 век се изгражда крепостта Ряховец. Това е една чисто военна крепост, която охранява пътя за столицата Търново. Тоест тук имаме един укрепителен пояс, първи укрепителен пояс, в който се включва именно нашата крепост. Археологическите разкопки от 80-те и 90-те години представят един разнообразен и интересен материал, сред който имаме редица керамични фрагменти, монети и накити.
When in 1185 the brothers Asen and Petr fought against the Byzantine Empire and restored Bulgarian independence, they established their capital in Turnovo, a town located only 10 kilometers away from Gorna Oryahovitsa. The new capital needed additional fortifications. So at the end of the 12th century, a number of fortresses were built in the region surrounding present-day Gorna Oryahovitsa. Among them was the Rachovets fortress. It's generally assumed that the modern name of the town is derived from the name of this particular fortress.
През периода 12-14 век функционира крепостта Ряховец. Тя представлява най-северната точка от укрепителния пояс, който се оформя. Или това е Царевец, Трапезица и Ряховец, като най-северна точка. Там е пребивавал военен гарнизон около 500 човека, който охранява пътя за столицата. През 80-те и 90-те години археологическите разкопки ни показват едни интересни материали, сред които редица керамични фрагменти, монети и накити.
The Rachovets fortress and the other defences were burnt down and destroyed in 1444 by the Polish-Hungarian king Vladislav III Jagiellowicz. Later known as Vladislav Varnenchik, he died in a battle against the Ottoman forces invading Europe during the 15th century. King Vladislav's tactics involved setting fire to the fortresses as he went and destroying them to prevent the Ottomans from reprovisioning or engaging in counterattacks. He dealt with the powerful fortress of Shumen in the same way. Just as the people in Shumen did, the people of Rachovets abandoned the ruins of the fortress and relocated their settlement to the site of present-day Gorna Oryahovitsa. From the 15th to the 19th century, Oryahovitsa grew to become an important commercial center in central North Bulgaria. Its population was hard-working and industrious, and numerous crafts flourished in the region. Leather manufacturers, goldsmiths and blacksmiths, among others. At the end of the 18th century, the markets of Gorna Oryahovitsa were famous throughout the region and became one of the main centers for trade between Europe and the Ottoman Empire. One of these markets was Sir Pazar, a cattle market which had been taking place every week to this very day. The most significant event in the history of Gorna Oryahovitsa made it a truly modern town. This was the opening of the railway station on the 8th of November 1899. At the opening ceremony for the new station, the ribbon was cut by King Ferdinand himself. The station is located right in the middle of the longest railway route in Bulgaria to this very day, the Sofia-Varna line. So Gorna Oryahovitsa entered the 20th century 52 days earlier than the rest of the world by symbolically stepping boldly into the age of modernity, the age of the railway. Since then, for more than 100 years, Gorna Oryahovitsa station has been the biggest in North Bulgaria. Since January 2007, Bulgaria has been a full member of the European Union. This means new rules and strict regulations. The European Union is where the rights and freedoms of a person meet the rights and obligations of business. The Union pays particular emphasis to clear and unambiguous definitions and names, and to the regulation of trading practices.
Весел празник, бъдете честити!
Each of them only has the right to bear the respective name if it is produced in a strictly defined geographical region. It took the European Union decades to implement such precise regulations. But in this way, clients can rest assured of the quality of the products. In December 2011, the first Bulgarian product to receive European protection was from Gorna Oryahovitsa. The European Register of Protected Designations of Origin lists a type of sausage called sujuk from Gorna Oryahovitsa as Gorno-Oryachovsky sujuk. Since 2011, one thing has been made certain. Any Gorno-Oryachovsky sujuk is of guaranteed quality and has been manufactured in the Gorna Oryahovitsa region. But what actually is sujuk? It's a sausage made of dried raw meat, popular in all of Southeast Europe and the Middle East. It's made from various types of meat, anything from pork, veal, beef, mutton, lamb or horse meat, or a combination of meats. A variety of spices is then added: pepper, ginger, cinnamon, turmeric and fenugreek. It's dried over different periods of time. It can be grilled, added to dishes or eaten raw or well dried. It can be found in a variety of shapes, like salami, like a sausage, or like a horseshoe. On the whole, the word sujuk is a rather general term that encompasses salami-making traditions across a wide region. Gorno-Oryachovsky sujuk is something entirely different. The name designates a type of salami which has endured in popularity over the centuries. It also has its traditions. The history of Gorno-Oryachovsky sujuk begins in the Middle Ages. Back then, the locals discovered their own recipe for conserving meat.
Рецептата за този уникален горнооряховски продукт се ражда някъде преди повече от 500 години. Тогава, в края на всяка година, на горнооряховчани се налага да преценят какво количество от добитъка си да оставят с оглед на личния фураж, който имат, и така, за да запазят поне месото от него, започват да го кълцат ръчно с сатъри и да го пълнят в изсушени осолени черва.
Incidentally, this task was facilitated not only by the ingenuity of local people, but also by the unique climatic conditions in the region. Favorable factors included the constant flow of soft air from the Balkan mountains along the river Yantra. The earliest evidence for sujuk production dates back to Ottoman rule. Over 500 years, Bulgaria was part of the vast Ottoman Empire, which spread over almost the entire Balkan Peninsula and over considerable territories in the Middle East and North Africa. A ferman, or royal decree, was issued by Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent in 1538, granting the right to a certain Rustem Pasha to hold lands and collect taxes on sujuk production in the region of present-day Gorna Oryahovitsa. The fact that those rights had to be specifically mentioned in such an important state document speaks for itself. It proves that sujuk production was widespread and generated considerable income. If this hadn't been the case, Suleiman himself, the all-powerful, fearsome Sultan, who nearly conquered Vienna in the 16th century, wouldn't have been bothered with the matter of the sujuk. The sujuk-making tradition has obviously been passed down over the centuries. Tradesmen and craftsmen from the region would carry some of this delicacy in their saddlebags while travelling far and wide across all of Europe and the Middle East. Sujuk remained a matter of local and regional pride. Yet it took until 1861 for the locals to pluck up the courage to present their unique product to Europe. At the International Trade Fair in Turin, the capital of Italy at the time, a medal was awarded for the sujuk produced by Mikhail Nikolov from Gorna Oryachovica. The craftsmanship it takes to produce dried salami and appetizers was appreciated by, among others, Felix Kanitz, the famous 19th century Austro-Hungarian traveller. Kanitz, one of the most renowned ethnologists, ethnographers and cartographers of his time, put special emphasis on Gorno Oryachowski sujuk in his fundamental 3-volume work from 1882 entitled Danubian Bulgaria and the Balkans. Gorno Oryachowski sujuk has been a favourite delicacy for generations of Bulgarians. We know firsthand that the recipes for masterpieces like this are kept secret everywhere. Unlike many other specialities, its recipe is no secret. The people of Gorna Oryachovica aren't afraid to share it. The sujuk could never be as good or delicious unless it was made right there in Gorna Oryachovica. That's why they're happy to share their recipe. Here it is.
В началото обработката, разбира се, е предимно ръчна. Горнооряховци са използвали сатър, с него нарязват на ситни парчета месото, завиват го с черги, за да може да се затопли и след това пълнят го в специални усолени черва, които се закачат под северните стрехи, където идват тези специални климатични течения, които са необходими за изсъхването на продукта. Също много важно е това, че в нашия район, Горнооряховския, той придобива една специфична бяла плесен, която е много необходима, за да може да ни позволява на мазнините да гранят. Едва вече от 20 век, 30-те години, започват технологизацията на този процес, който вече не изисква специални условия. Ползват се мелачни машини и климатизирани помещения, които позволяват продукта да се произвежда целогодишно.
Gorno Oryachowski sujuk must be made from no other meat but beef. Take about 10 kilograms of good quality fresh beef. You also need 200 grams of salt, 25 grams of black pepper, 20 grams of ground cumin, 10 grams of saltpeter and 10 grams of sugar. The meat is then cut into small pieces, no larger than a packet of cigarettes, and weighing about 100 to 150 grams each. The pieces are salted and left in a cool room for 24 hours. Then, when the meat has absorbed the salt, it gets transferred onto a sloping surface to drain the excess water properly. The drained meat is then passed through a sharp-bladed mincer. It's crucial for the meat to be minced or cut and not crushed. The beef is then spread out into a thin layer and sprinkled with the saltpeter, the sugar and the spices. Well mixed and kneaded until the mixture becomes homogeneous. It sits for another 3 days in a cool room for the meat to absorb the flavors of the spices. Next, the meat is ground again. The mixture is stuffed into dried beef intestine cases, cut into pieces 30 to 45 centimeters long, and soaked in lukewarm water for an hour beforehand. Once filled, the intestine cases are tied tightly at both ends, formed into sausages and bent into a horseshoe shape. The sujuk is then pierced with a needle so that the air trapped in the casing on filling the sujuk can be expelled. The horseshoes are then strung up and hung on bars, at least 10 centimeters away from each other. They're hung out to dry in a well-ventilated place away from direct sunlight. These places could be the eaves of roofs, attics, or special storerooms in houses. The drying process takes between 30 and 60 days. The temperature mustn't exceed 12 degrees and the air humidity mustn't be more than 75%. From the first day of the drying process, the sujuk is rolled out with a wooden rolling pin every other day to expel the air remaining in the casing, and the sausage is flattened into its unique shape. After the rolling process has been repeated several times, the sujuk is placed for 24 hours between two planks, pressed down hard with weights. Then it's hung out to dry again. The pressing process is repeated all over again another 3 or 4 times at 5 or 6 day intervals. Each time, the weight on the planks is increased. When the drying period is over, the sujuk is ready and tastes excellent. It goes perfectly with some good red wines, for example. All this is due to the unique climate of Горна Оряховица. Since sujuk is now a symbol not only of Gorna Oryachovica but of Bulgaria as a whole, it's only right to dedicate a special day to it. This is now a fact. It's now become a tradition to hold a sujuk feast day in Gorna Oryachovica in the last week of May each year. Citizens and visitors to the town can enjoy this unique speciality over several days in the town park. Those who master the art of sujuk making demonstrate their skill. In the year 2013 alone, over 1.5 tons of sujuk was consumed at the feast. Over 2 tons of beer were poured out and drunk. More than 7,000 people took part in the celebrations. This tradition strives to set a new culinary record during the feast by making a giant sujuk. All local producers are involved in its preparation. It's then roasted and offered to the guests. In the meantime, different culinary competitions are organized in the town park, where various ethnic groups prepare dishes typical of their cultures. Some cities with an ancient history are so boring you'd never want to go back there. Some modern cities are so tiring that you're in a hurry to leave. Горна Оряховица offers an entirely different experience. It retains both its history and its modern character. It offers a pleasant atmosphere and friendly people. And of course, the famous sujuk.